What's the creepiest thing you caught someone doing? When we were about 18, my friend Rich started telling me something weird was going on. He said there was this guy with long hair, a beard, and a mustache who kept showing up. It wasn't like a one-off thing either. He'd be walking down the street and notice the guy behind him, just far enough to be suspicious. If Rich crossed the street, the guy would cross too. It went on for days. Rich was getting increasingly paranoid. At night, he'd check out his front window before bed, and sometimes he'd see the guy standing in the middle of the road, perfectly still, just staring at his house. No movement, no calls, no notes, just this silent, unbroken staring. He didn't know who the guy was. He didn't know why he was there, and since it was the early 2000s, there was no social media to quietly look up someone's face. You either knew them or you didn't. About 2 weeks after this started, our band was practicing in our lead guitarist's backyard. It was one of those late summer evenings, still warm enough to keep the amps and drums outside without worrying about the weather. We'd been at it for a couple of hours, playing and messing around, until we decided to take a break. Rich grabbed his amp and headed toward his car to load it up. A couple minutes later, I saw him come running back into the yard, eyes wide and breathing hard. His voice cracked a little when he said, "He's out front, that guy I told you about. He's here, and he's coming through the gate." We all turned toward the side entrance just as the gate latch clicked, and sure enough, in walked the exact guy Rich had described. Long hair, messy beard, thick mustache. He stepped in slowly, looking around at all of us, and said, "Rich?" There was a tense beat where no one moved. Then Rich, still keeping his distance, said, "Yeah?" The guy took a step forward, his voice oddly casual, and said, "It's me, Doug." Rich frowned. "Doug?" "Yeah, man, we went to school together," the guy said. Like this should clear everything up instantly. "I moved away a few years ago." Rich just stared at him. "Why didn't you say anything sooner? You've been following me around for 2 weeks. You've been outside my house at night." Doug's eyes darted to the side like he was embarrassed. He laughed nervously and said, "I wasn't sure it was you. I didn't want to look stupid if I was wrong." We all just stood there trying to process what we were hearing. He'd spent 2 weeks stalking Rich because he wasn't sure it was him, instead of just asking. Rich's voice was sharp now. "You didn't think maybe walking up and saying, 'Hey, I'm Doug,' would be less creepy than staring at me from the street?" Doug shrugged, almost sheepish. "I don't know, man. I was nervous. I thought maybe you'd recognize me first." By then, our guitarist stepped forward and told Doug it was time to leave. Doug didn't argue. He gave Rich one last awkward smile and a nod, then turned and walked out the same way he'd come. We stood there in silence for a long moment after the gate closed. I could see Rich's hands still shaking. It didn't matter that Doug had given an explanation. It didn't erase the fact that for 2 solid weeks, Rich had been living in fear of this guy showing up at night, watching him from the street. That night, Rich went home and sat on his porch until it got dark, scanning the road. Doug never came back, but even after it was over, Rich kept his curtains drawn for months.